Many people have been asking me how did I get my podcast up and running that quickly? Well, the secret is Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. And it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. It can also help you to distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make money from a podcast too with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. If you're interested, find out more. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Adrian Tan Show. This is my podcast where I have deep conversations with the people who are enabling organizations to become ready for the future of work. My guests include a mindfulness coach, the folks behind Singapore's most popular investment app, and many more. They all have one thing in common, and that is to help level up your organizations through your people. My guest today is the co-founder and CEO at Pulsifi. He is passionate about helping people unleash their potential. Pulsifi was founded to help organizations truly understand their people and make better people decisions using data, predictive analytics, and AI. Pulsifi provides a people data platform to help organizations improve quality and efficiency in talent acquisition and talent management. Their approach is a combination of organizational psychology, data science, and machine learning. This is done by analyzing multi-dimensional data such as CVs, psychometric assessments, video interviews, and employee records to holistically understand each person across hard skills and soft traits and predict outcomes like performance, work behaviours, job fit, cultural fit with accuracy higher than 90%. Their clients include Nestlé, Baxter, Heineken, Singtel, UOB across Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, and Thailand. Prior to Pulsifi, he was head of strategy at CtrlShift, an AI pioneer in people data for digital marketing and online advertising. He was also with the Boston Consulting Group and worked closely with organizations in addressing their biggest people challenges. Before that, he was a venture capitalist and a public servant. Please welcome Jay Huang. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for coming on to the show. For people who are not familiar with Pulsifi, how will you describe it to them?
Hi, morning, Adrian. Thanks for having me here. Pulsifi, we're a people analytics company and we specialize in predictive analytics. And our key product actually is a people data platform. Let me use a cooking analogy to describe that, right? Because I really like cooking. So imagine if one day you have this cooking machine where all you need to do is throw ingredients in, right? So no more chopping and cutting, just throw them in. The machine recommends recipes based on the thousands in its library. It tells you what ingredients are missing to enhance the dish. It cooks for you. And based on how you like the food that came out, it can tweak the recipe for next time. So it turns out there is a machine that does some of this. But in the space of HR, Pulsifi's data platform actually does all of it. So analogy for HR is the ingredients you throw in would be people data. Things like CVs, psychometric assessments, video interviews, employee records, HRS data, anything. So the platform analyzes all that data and predicts specific attitudes and behaviors of each candidate or employee at a company. Right. From there, analogous to job recipes, it would actually recommend job fit based on thousands in its library. It recommends how to develop each person to enhance the person, and then can also tweak the recipe for next time based on actual outcomes like job performance. So this is how the machine learning kicks in as well to enable better analytics. Our platform is actually used for use cases across talent acquisition and talent management, dealing on things like graduate programs, hiring, high potential programs. We also focus on things like customer success, work agility, and crisis recovery.
So the next most important question, what's the favorite dish that you like to cook?
I love to use the oven actually because it's quite minimal cleaning and then it provides really pretty good temperature distribution. So one thing I really like doing is ribs because I think I can probably eat ribs every day. And I just did it yesterday also. I think the secret to actually having good ribs is to cook them at low temperature for maybe 2-3 hours in the oven.
I see. Okay, I'll take good note of that.
Yeah.
So a bit about yourself. What's your background and what motivated you to start Pulsifi?
Let's see. Yeah. So first of all, I gotta say I don't have that so-called HR experience, which I think some people tend to expect when we are in the HR space. Actually, right before this, I was in the space of online advertising and digital marketing. And that's actually where we use people data extensively to improve the efficacy of serving ads to people. And that was actually the inspiration for what we do at Pulsifi, which is using people data, using AI, right, to make better decisions for people. But in this case, not about consumer preferences, but more about what happens at the workplace. Prior to doing that, I was in management consulting at the Boston Consulting Group. That's when I realized that no matter how good your strategy is, whether it's sales or operations or procurement, it all boils down to the people. And companies, whether they're big or small, young or established, they all face the same problems. And this is what made me realize that actually, if we're able to help companies improve the way they make decisions about their people, it can really benefit any company in the world, and it can also benefit so many people. Earlier on in my career, I was also in venture capital. I guess that's where I got bitten by this entrepreneur and startup bug. Yeah, but I guess funny thing is no clever idea until almost 10 years later when I started Pulsify. I started my career in public service at Enterprise Singapore, helping Singapore tech SMEs to grow their business overseas. And I mean, I got to be thankful. Without a government scholarship, I wouldn't have the chance to open my eyes to the world. So I guess all these things in my career really ended up contributing important parts to how I decided to start Pulsify with my co-founder 3 years ago, whereby we brought different things to the table to make things happen. And I got to say, being an entrepreneur is probably one of the best decisions I made in my life, and I really can't imagine doing anything else.
I 100% agree. That is also something I share with people, having done my own businesses before. Although I'm still on that 10-year journey of yours, trying to figure out what's the next idea for me to consider.
Mm-hmm.
But back to Pulsify, there are quite a number of platforms out in the market, especially in, I would say, the assessment space, trying to make prediction about how suitable people are.
Mm-hmm.
From the recruitment aspect, you have, of course, parsing tools, you have matching algorithms. At talent management level, you also have a lot of other attributes coming together. How would Pulsify differ from many of the other companies out in the market, in your personal opinion?
Yeah. So, in terms of approach, we are taking something that is quite unique in the sense that what we do is we understand people holistically. And by holistically, we mean we look at hard skills, soft traits, and other information all at the same time. So, this other information could be, what a person did in school, how far they live from the office. But we believe that actually looking at all of this in totality is what helps us really understand people. And compared to many providers in the market, they tend to focus on usually just one side of the equation, right? So, for example, CV passers look at the CV, but they don't look at anything else. And then a lot of psychometric assessment providers focus only on the soft traits. But for us, we believe the big picture is important because the reality is every single component of us contributes to how we turn out at work, right? In terms of performance, in terms of commitment, and things like that. I think the other difference is that we actually offer a data platform, not just assessments, meaning we are agnostic to be able to onboard any kind of people data to improve the predictive models. That means including using data from providers that are not us, right? And that's usually common because you walk into any company out there, you can't expect them to only use one provider for all their assessments or all their people data. It's going to be different. But what we're able to do is actually take all those different sources of data, map it down to our framework, and use everything in the same model. That's beneficial because if we didn't do that, I think the humans with the HR, the hiring managers, they have to do that. And number one is tedious. Number two is very unscalable if you try and do it for 100 people or 1,000 people. The third thing would be we are actually able to offer a very customized solution for each use case without the client needing to go through customization. And that's because we have mapped out tens of thousands of models and jobs already in our database. So sometimes it just takes a little tweak and then the clients have a great solution. And it's much better than just using whatever's off the shelf.
So, for your solution, are there any specific industries or sectors or company sizes that would be much more suitable to try out Pulsify?
Yes, because ours is a data business, generally if there's a higher volume of people data, the models would be better. So that lends itself to, for example, roles whereby the candidates come in high volume, right? So whether or not you've got hundreds or thousands of people who apply for jobs, or it could be companies with, hundreds or thousands of employees. So usually it's that segment of companies. The kind of industries we focus on tend to be those that also are embracing a lot of digital tech and data in their core business. So they could be companies like consumer goods, pharma, telco, financial services, professional services. And then the kind of roles we focus on tend to be professional white collar roles, because I think for some roles out there, you might not need to go so much into data in order to achieve what you need to. So we focus on roles that are very much more complex, such as those dealing with leadership, with management, with client-facing activities.
I'd say so. It's also pretty much location agnostic, and it caters quite over a quite wide breadth of different positions. Are there any interesting edge cases of your product since you started?
Yeah, I think one thing that we like to help tell people now and then is that we actually help in the selection of cabin crew for airlines, right? And then people will be like, "What? How do you even?" And then okay, actually we explain that we focus more on the non-physical aspects, so not how they look, how tall they are, but really on their ability to do customer service, reacting, and all that. So we actually have been able to achieve really good results to help airline clients with the selection of cabin crew, looking at actually the people who are sort of beneath the hood, underneath the skin, right? Yeah, just that, of course, recently the airline industry hasn't been so exciting. So we look forward to do more of that in the future. Cases, I think we also do some support of organizations whereby we feel our product can make a difference. And one of that is the Asian University of Women. So it's sort of we do some pro bono work with them. And the story there is that it's a university that's based in Bangladesh, and it's meant to provide education to a lot of women in less privileged families. So, without education, a lot of them end up working in government factories. That's why the university was set up to help them to really have more options for their career. And the university also actually has this mentorship program whereby they actually attach mentors who are mostly women in professional roles all across the world to actually guide these young girls on how they can pursue their careers. So what we come in to provide actually is a platform to help these people understand, for example, their personalities, their interests, their culture, preferences, what kind of roles, what kind of organizations are better suited for them in the longer run.
It's interesting that you mentioned it because my next question would be related to diversity in the course of trying to better assess certain candidates. I've seen companies using a lot of different methods and ways to try to improve the diversity of the organization. But having said that, of course, it also lead to some companies having a sense that it may go into a certain group think. I'm not sure if you came across this report whereby Amazon actually scrapped one of their algorithm because it resulted in the algorithm basically become racist. So I'd like to get your view on this, and how should companies who are new to D&I, diversity and inclusion, really approach their D&I in the right way?
Yeah, so I think D&I is definitely a hot topic nowadays from a gender perspective, from an ethnic background perspective, and sometimes not positively, right? Especially if what's going in Singapore post the election, for example. I think a lot of companies approach it from let's say from gender perspective. A lot of common themes would be stronger female representation in certain kind of roles, senior leadership. That hasn't been the case. Some companies are also making a very active effort to increase the ethnic composition of their people. Although on the flip side, there are also many companies, due to government mandate or whatever, need to favor certain ethnic groups, right? So my view is actually all these are a good step forward, but actually they are still not a very good way of looking at diversity. In fact, it itself is some form of bias. And I think the problem here is we're looking at superficial traits as a form of diversity when actually the diversity we're looking for is not that. So what I feel is, for example, when organizations want to look for more female representation, it could be really they want to bring female representation in because they associate certain qualities with female colleagues. So it could be they're more emotionally sensitive, or they could be more nurturing. So that definitely could be a different perspective from the people who are currently in that role. So it could improve the diversity in terms of the traits. But if you ask me, what they're looking for then would be those traits, right? Nurturing rather than looking for females. So my view is for a company that's wanting to embark on this D&I initiative, I think the important thing to do is to actually figure out what are the important traits that we really need for this role, for this team, or for this organization to really succeed, right? And then we want to figure out how to achieve diversity on everything else. It's definitely going to be hard to do because I think most people don't even know what traits are needed for people to be successful, right? So, example, if you ask any sales manager what qualities make a salesperson succeed, they'll tell you things like, we need people who talk a lot, who are energetic because they can make customers buy stuff, right? But actually, a lot of research has shown that it's not that makes salespeople good. It's actually their ability to exude a kind of warmth so that the customers can trust them, right? So then the question is, if we want to have this kind of personal warmth, where do we find that? So it's not really about is it male or female, is it young or old, but really on an individual basis, who are the people that exude that kind of warmth or who are able to do that, that clients can actually trust them more, right? So my view is that diversity and inclusion really should go down into that kind of trait level, which is things like personality. It could even be things like what people value at the workplace. They've got different cultures. It could also be down to the kind of work interest people have, right? In the sense that some people are more conventional. They like to stick to rules. Some people are those who like to try new things all the time. Some of those people are very investigative. Some people are a lot more influential when it comes to people. So whenever the organization has realized that which of these traits are really important, I think for the other traits that are not so important, they can afford to be diverse on those. I think one last thing to say about diversity is actually the irony is that for some roles, you actually don't want diversity, right? I think research has shown that diversity helps when it comes to creating new things, right? It's like ideation, new business. But if you want to do something existing and just keep doing it repetitively, actually you don't want diversity, right? You want everybody to just do it as uniform as possible, as consistent as possible. So I think that one's also worth bearing in mind.
That's interesting to note. So it's somewhat like the military that you and I have gone through, where everyone is expected to be churned out the same way. And on what you mentioned about hiring the right salespeople, I actually have met up with a sales director before, and he told me he has a very simple barometer in hiring a salesperson, and that is based on his or her address.
Mm,
So if the person is staying in a private development, that person is out because not hungry
mm,
enough.
mm,
Of course, a lot of all these bias are rampant in the
correct.
space, which is why I do think something much more solid and evidence-based is very crucial, which I guess is what the Singapore government is also trying to lead into with the skills framework. But having said that, the skills framework, as the name implies, is very much heavy on skills itself.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it may be important, it doesn't really paint the holistic picture that you're trying to do. What is your personal view on this initiative right now? And does it really play a big or major part in what your system is trying to match in a holistic manner?
I mean, it's definitely a good start, right? Because if the people we're talking about here come from a really low base, whereby, for example, it's difficult for them to find employment or it's difficult for them to move up, right? Then I think skills is one place to definitely start. But it actually is also a very small piece of everything else that employers look for, right? So skills alone without experience is also not very useful. And I think I speak about this from our personal experience, whereby there are people who, let's say, they don't have much training in let's say programming, right? But they go to some courses, and then when you actually get these people to do real work, you find that they just lack the experience to be able to do something that is good enough. So the reality is skills are important, but with it, you need to get people experience opportunities. And I think that's why the traineeships that the government is launching, Singapore government is launching, for example, promoting employers to really take these people who are less experienced to be able to give them chances to hone their skills. So I think that's definitely very, very important because skills alone not enough. But that said, aside from those two, those are more what I call the hard skills. I think there are a lot of soft traits about people that are very important as well. For example, you mentioned hunger just earlier, right? So that's a reflection of some things, which is what motivates these people to succeed. So some people are motivated by rewards, right? They want to be recognized. Some people are motivated by mastery. They just want to be able to show that they want to show themselves, right? They can then be experts at their craft. So there are various other personality traits, like, for example, how open are people to new experiences, how conscientious are they in doing their things, how emotionally stable that they are to react to various kinds of situations. So all these are also actually very important qualities that employers need to look for. All of these would ultimately contribute to things like leadership, team playing, communication, resilience, adaptability. They're all very important as well. But they are harder to improve at scale, right? Because the reality is, because each of us are so different, for us to improve in these things are also different. So what we do to help that is actually, if we understand each person really well on our platform by collecting all the data about them, we can come up with a really personalized L&D steps and content, right? So I think it would be good if government level projects can also move in that direction, whereby a lot of that training can be more personalized, rather than, let's say, everybody encourage you to go for data analytics courses. I think the importance is to personalize on that. Yeah. So on the flip side, then also you want organizations to start to appreciate that, which is beyond looking at skills and experience, you want to understand what the other soft traits are important for people to succeed in the job. Because part of it is, yes, the skills get the person into the job, but what keeps the person there? What keeps the person contributing, right? And the person needs to, for example, like what they're doing, right? Because actually many people are good at doing something, but they don't like it. The person also needs to fit the culture of the organization, right? They need to be aligned with the vision of the company. So these are also other soft traits that employers need to look into for that equation to really work. Because I think for a long time we know that HR people are definitely the biggest problem that any company can face, right? Whether it comes to being difficult to hire, difficult to retain, difficult to develop. But on the flip side, also the reality is that not many people love what they do at work, right? And while it's totally understandable that some people need to work in order to just pay the bills, I think it'd be nicer if we can actually find roles that these people can do and actually like, so that then they can be better performers, better employees, and that way the company benefits as well. Then the equation becomes nicer.
And I guess it doesn't help that HR professional, as seen in a recent straw poll survey, is being measured as being non-essential.
Oh,
One
yeah.
of the top 5 non-essential professional. Does your solution or platform help them to, level up and change that perception in the general viewpoint of audiences?
I would say yes, and I think that's a very important part of our mission, because a platform alone wouldn't do any good without champions. And we really want to find that champion within the organization to together help to take each organization, each company that we work with to the next level. So coming back to what you said about the bashing, I think we cannot deny that HR function as a whole usually is not the most well loved in the organization, because they don't contribute directly to the top line in that sense, right? They don't do sexy stuff like marketing and PR to make the company look good. But I think with COVID coming, the HR function is really thrown into the spotlight. Yes, he took some bashing, but the reality is for many companies, it was the HR function that helped people to adjust to the work from home environment, right? To provide a kind of communication and engagement that is now needed in more virtual environment. And of course, ensuring the safety of everybody, right? To make sure that the risk of catching the virus is lower. So I think with this also comes the chance for HR to do a lot more than just that, which is, in the past, a lot of it was focused on administration, payroll, just arranging interviews, picking candidates. But I think going forward, HR can really make a big difference, because we already know that people are the most important asset of the company, and actually that's the entire play of HR. So can they actually help the company to bring out the full potential of their people, such that the company then can also become successful? Because we believe great companies are made by only great people, and really HR has a big role to do that, right? So how can that be done, given that they may not have changed how they do things how they did things for the past 10 years? I think the answer lies in hence something which we're working on, data. which, yes, in the past was difficult to deal with because many systems were not cloud-based, many systems were not scalable, analytics was very nascent. But now all that is really easy to use, it's affordable as well, and data can make a big difference, right? To be able to provide each employee a more personalized experience in terms of not just career path, right, but also engaging them. For example, you find that some people work from home better than others, right? Some people are more connected than others. So how do you actually personalize the experience for them? And also because the work environment, business environment, and roles, they keep changing even faster and faster nowadays. So L&D itself also needs to be a continuous effort, which is again down to the personalization, because different people will need different kind of training, and in order to get to the kind of level of personalization scalably, then that's where data and technology comes in. And with the kind of tools, HR actually can do a lot more than what they did before, which is don't just do the same policy for everybody, but can they actually ensure that everybody gets the right treatment they deserve. I mean, this brings to me to point another term that they use for this, which is talent management, right? The whole idea is how do we manage the talent in an organization. But the funny thing is they call it talent management because they only manage talent. Then how about the people who are deemed non-talent, right? Isn't that kind of strange? So I think with platforms, we can actually make sure that everybody gets the attention that they deserve, because the kind of effort that HR needs to put in goes a lot more into the insights and decision making than the administrative parts of dealing with paperwork, dealing with process.
So I do agree that the data play a big part in trying to level up HR professionals. And in fact, I heard a story from CHRO before during board meetings, at least many years back, when the CFO comes into a board meeting, he'll be presenting the P&L, salesperson, of course, all the sales sheet, sales report, but the CHRO basically will be the one taking attendance because there's no data for her or him to
Mm-hmm.
present to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the data play definitely plays a huge part in trying to level up, and of course, educating people to embrace the data would be key as a first step for them to move forward.
Actually,
Back
Adrian,
to
sorry to cut
yeah,
you. Actually, to jump onto that, it's definitely true. Which is, I think it is time that the senior HR leaders get a seat at the table of the most senior leadership of the company, and it's not like they need to sit at the back. And I think one thing that maybe not many people know is there are many CEOs of big companies who go through HR stints, right, before they become CEO, and actually that goes to show how important that function is. It's just like how the Prime Minister of Singapore always goes through a finance or trade portfolio, right? It's actually a very important function, but I think the senior leaders who are in that position, those who choose to take that opportunity to really get to the next level, they can, right? And for those who choose to do what they want to do, then I think they will basically, yeah, face the decline.
yeah, that I truly agree with that. The thing, I guess, is there's not much understanding of people who have been rotated among different functions before landing into HR.
Mm.
Most people would have been career HR for the longest time,
Mhm.
with exception. I mean, if you were to ask me off the top of my head, I could only recall the current guy at OCBC, where he was in the retail or investment banking side before
Mm.
going to HR.
Mm.
So definitely a lot more education and awareness in that space would be helpful to help people understand how important HR is.
Mhm.
Back to your business journey, what has been the key turning point for you to help you understand that, yes, I'm on the right track?
We started our company in 2016, early 2017. And I think we had great ideas back then, which actually aren't too different from today, right? The funny thing is, but I think we spent a long time trying to figure out how to build a product such that clients will love it. And we actually took many months of figuring that out without really getting anywhere. So definitely the first big turning point was when our first real client came on to pay decent money for what we could do. And that was Nestlé. They provided us the kind of confidence and validation that the kind of vision we had was something they could see and something they could actually trust us to deliver on. Right. So of course we did every I personally think we possibly could to deliver that for them. And I think we did a pretty good job, because 3 years later, they're still one of our big clients. But that's definitely a big turning point for us, because without that, I don't think we'd have been able to figure out that product market fit, right, to get to where we are today. I want to go to more detail on that. So I think a long time ago, we already had a vision that different kinds, because organizations deal with various people data, and they're all fragmented in silos and disjointed, and a lot of manual effort is needed to put them together and to even analyze them if you want to. So we wanted to provide a platform to host everything such that you can have great predictive models. But that alone wasn't a strong enough use case, because companies will realize, okay, so I got all this data, I got these models, what I do. So I think the realizations when we started working in Nestlé was to actually cater that to specific use cases. So let's say it's hiring for a graduate program. Then how do we use our models to help them to understand, based on their past graduate hires, for example, what are kind of traits that cause people to succeed at Nestlé? And from there, how do we select people with those kind of traits among, let's say, the hundreds of thousands of people who apply efficiently and well? Because compared to doing it manually, doing it with data should be a lot faster and more consistent. So that made us realize that actually that use case was really important to make it more tangible for clients. And from there, hence, we've expanded to other use cases, like I mentioned, right, dealing with high potential programs, dealing with salespeople. But I think a bit of irony is more recently, we've heard some clients started to appreciate the idea of having a data platform, because nowadays more companies are embarking on their own analytics in terms of harnessing the value of their own data. And then that's when they start to realize that actually we do need a platform to empower that. So actually that turn has also led to kind of a journey for us that kind of brought us back to where we were. So that's definitely a very important milestone for us.
And recently, the pandemic happened. Has that affected your business in any way?
I think definitely, and it was definitely a very trying time. So we were actually close to raising a round of funding in Q1, right? And for us, the external funding is important because we always invest a lot in product development and business expansion, right? In order to produce something that's even better for our clients and for us to grow even faster. So when that the deal fell apart in Q1 for us, so the investors pulled out due to various reasons, many of which were related to COVID-19. So we really had to re-strategize. And it was difficult because during that time, I mean, how many investors were still keen to invest in new opportunities when probably half of their existing investments were struggling, right? For example, travel companies or things like that, or even F&B companies. In Q2, then another thing added on to that trouble, which is business practically paused, right? Business in the sense of new sales opportunities paused. Existing ones are still ongoing, but new ones paused. And I think totally can understand why, because many companies were now trying to figure out how to work effectively from home. Nobody has any bandwidth to look at buying anything new, right? So those factors really made cash flow a huge crunch for us. Got really, really tight. And as much as I tried the longest to not to protect our team, in the end, we needed to adopt some measures to manage salaries across the board, right? And very, very sad I had to do it. But at the same time, there were some employees who came to tell me that, some of them offered to take bigger pay cuts. Some of them said they're okay to work for free. And I think that's when I realized also that all the time we spent building a team really came to the day whereby we had so much trust and confidence from team members that we really would take care of them. It's just that time was bad, so we couldn't. So I'm really thankful for their support. So yeah, we had to re-strategize everything. So very fortunately, a couple of months back, we managed to close a fundraise. And then if you look back, actually, that was probably achieving the impossible, because we did it in a really short time. And we managed to raise more than what we wanted to. So that was really good. And Yeah, as you know, also then from say July or so onwards, the economy started to move more. So clients started to resume the initiatives. Some clients started to buy things. Some companies are also hiring. So that's when all the business started coming back as well. It was very intense, I think, this period, but we learned a lot in terms of, yes, being a startup is tough, but then this is definitely a big test. But I think all the more it made us closer to our team. It also made us closer to our clients because with this exercise, they also started to realize what's really important. And one of the very big thing is really engaging and supporting the existing employee base. Because I think prior to COVID-19, many companies were just all hot and heavy on hiring, right? Because market was exuberant. But in tough times, they started to realize that it's their existing employees that actually made the difference for them. So they started to embark on a lot of initiatives related to that. And because of that, we also accelerated our product development into that employee management space. So looking back, it was a trying period, but then we came out of it pretty well. Yeah, so that's definitely one very, very big story that happened during this time.
I think that would be a hallmark to a founder's success, where your team member during crunch time would tell you, "I'm okay to take a bigger pay cut." That really signal a lot, and I personally would feel that if given the same situation, that would be the proudest moment that I have.
Yes.
So, what's next for Pulsifi as we look forward into the end of 2020 and going into 2021?
Yep. We like I mentioned, we in the past we did a lot of talent acquisition, external talent acquisition, and I think in the past few months we move a lot more into internal talent acquisition and various talent management use cases. So we see a lot of the next 6-9 months focusing on enhancing that part of our platform to really serve our clients on a more end-to-end kind of basis, which is the whole employee life cycle of hiring somebody and helping the person to continue developing and succeeding in the organization. From a geographical perspective, we are looking to expand our footprint. So right now we are across 6 countries in Southeast Asia, and we want to deepen our presence in markets like Indonesia and Philippines. And we also want to start moving further abroad. So looking at markets in Europe and Australia, for example. We're doing it with a combination of our own efforts and partners. And because if you remember, Adrian, I think at the start, the vision really was to make this a global impact by helping as many companies as possible across the world. So this really aligned with our vision of how to get there. But yeah, coming back to your earlier point about the proud moment, I got to admit that when I first started Pulsifi, the big goal was to build a strong business, right? Build a big company. But during that process, I started to realize the thing that gives me the greatest satisfaction and motivation actually is seeing my team members grow and succeed and contribute significantly to the company. So, I mean, yeah, that's definitely the sweet part of the experience.
And are you currently hiring?
Yes, we are. We are looking at some various kinds of roles. So we're looking at people to join our research team. So, for example, organizational psychologists. We're also looking to strengthen our product development team. I'm looking for product managers and software engineers. And also for business development, we're looking for sales and marketing roles.
I just want to go back to the talent acquisition portion. Would your solution be appropriate for recruitment agencies?
Actually, the answer is yes, and we are in conversation with some of them. Yeah, it's just that somehow we have sold a lot more into the companies themselves. Yeah, but with recruitment agencies, that's a possibility, and even with some job boards, there's also a possibility. So yeah, conversations are ongoing, and maybe something will happen soon.
Interesting. Good to know that. So for people who's keen to find out more, where can they go to?
There'll be a website. Just Google Pulsifi, Pulsifi, and also you can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to have a conversation offline.
Thank you so much. All these links will be placed into the show notes. And Jay, it has been a lovely conversation. I hope you enjoy it so far. And thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you very much, Adrian.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. You can refer to the show notes for links to more information about our guests and their businesses. If you enjoy this podcast, it will be helpful to give a review on iTunes or follow me on Spotify. If you're using Overcast, please hit the star button under the episode. That will help get this podcast and the episodes out to more people who may find it useful. I will see you in the next episode of The Adrian Tan Show.